This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. We're bringing you live coverage as an article of impeachment against former President Trump is delivered to the Senate by a delegation from the House of Representatives. The article charging President Trump with incitement of insurrection for the January 6th assault on the Capitol. It was passed by the House 12 days ago when Trump was still in office. The article now being walked, as you can see from the House side of the Capitol, to the floor of the Senate by the House Clerk, the Sergeant-at-Arms, and the 9 Democratic House members who will serve as impeachment managers, led by Representative Jamie Raskin of Vermont. He'll actually read the article to the Senate, setting in motion the unprecedented second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. I want to go right now to Capitol Hill correspondent Casey Hunt. Casey, where were you a year ago? We've seen this before.
We have seen this before, Lester, and that is what is so remarkable about the history being made here. I think you and I probably both thought that perhaps it was something that we would never see again as we covered the news for the next 10, 20, 30 years. But here we are less than a year later, or approximately a year later, and it's happening again. And that, of course, because of the incredibly dramatic and horribly difficult events of January 6th, that one article for incitement of insurrection. And the lead impeachment manager, Jamie Raskin, you can probably see him in that shot behind a mask. He and a colleague started drafting this article of impeachment while they were sheltering in place in a congressional office as they waited, uncertain as to what was happening in the Capitol building. And of course, the building itself still bears the scars from that day, broken glass that still has yet to be cleaned up. And so, again, incitement of insurrection is the charge against Donald Trump. And this, of course, is the official action that's going to kick off the trial, which is set to begin in 2 weeks. They came to an agreement to start it a little bit later than normal. The rules would dictate that it would be supposed to start at 1 p.m. tomorrow, but this unanimous agreement allowed them to extend it for a couple of weeks. So here in just a moment, you're going to see the formal process of them going down onto the Senate floor, announcing the arrival of the articles, and then reading it out loud. And this time you're going to see Senator Patrick Leahy. He is the president pro tem of the Senate, the longest serving senator of the majority party, who is set to preside over this trial. That's a change from last time around when we saw Chief Justice John Roberts do it, the Chief Justice of the United States, required to preside over trials for a sitting president of the United States. Of course, now Donald Trump no longer the sitting president, although he was impeached while he still was sitting as president. Of course, Republicans now challenging the trial at all, questioning whether they should be trying someone who is no longer in office. So you can expect those arguments to play out here in the coming days as we wait for this trial to officially start. But of course, Lester, this very dramatic and formal ceremony that we've only seen a few times in American history playing out a second time for former President Trump. Lester.
Yeah, the impeachment managers there waiting to go inside the Senate chambers. And Casey, while we're waiting for that, we recall the last trial, there were no witnesses. Would this be a very different story as we watch the managers file in?
So, Lester, we're hearing that both sides are interested in a relatively short trial here. And I'm sorry, we can listen in to what they're saying now on the floor.
Representatives to conduct proceedings on behalf of the House concerning the impeachment of Donald John Trump, former President of the United States.
The managers on the part of the House will be received and escorted to the well of the Senate. Sergeant-at-Arms will make the proclamation.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons are commanded to keep silent on pain of imprisonment while the House of Representatives is exhibiting to the Senate of the United States an article of impeachment against Donald John Trump, former President of the United States.
The managers on the part of the House will proceed.
Mr. President, the managers on the part of the House of Representatives are here and present and ready to present the article of impeachment, which has been preferred by the House of Representatives against Donald John Trump, former President of the United States. The House adopted the following resolution, which with the permission of the Senate, I will read. House Resolution 40 in the House of Representatives, United States, January 13th, 2021, resolved that Mr. Raskin, Ms. DeGette, Mr. Cicilline, Mr. Castro of Texas, Mr. Swalwell, Mr. Liu, Ms. Plaskett, Mr. Neguse, and Ms. Dean are appointed managers to conduct the impeachment trial against Donald John Trump, President of the United States, that a message be sent to the Senate to inform the Senate of the appointments, and that the manager so appointed may, in connection with the preparation and the conduct of the trial, exhibit the article of impeachment to the Senate and take all other actions necessary, which may include the following: employing legal, clerical, and other necessary assistance, and incurring such other expenses as may be necessary to be paid from amounts available to the Committee on the Judiciary under applicable expense resolutions or from the applicable accounts of the House of Representatives. 2, sending for persons and papers and filing with the Secretary of the Senate on the part of the House of Representatives any pleadings in conjunction with or subsequent to the exhibition of the articles of impeachment that the managers consider necessary. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives. With the permission of the Senate, I will now read the article of impeachment. House Resolution 24 in the House of Representatives, United States, January 13th, 2021. Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following article of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate. Article of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America against Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1, incitement of insurrection. The Constitution provides that the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment, and the President shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Further, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution prohibits any person who has, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States from holding any office under the United States, unquote. In his conduct while President of the United States and in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of the President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, Donald John Trump engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors by inciting violence against the government of the United States, in that on January 6, 2021, pursuant to the 12th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the Senate met at the United States Capitol for a joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. In the months preceding the joint session, President Trump repeatedly issued false statements asserting that the presidential election results were the product of widespread fraud and should not be accepted by the American people or certified by state or federal officials. Shortly before the joint session commenced, President Trump addressed a crowd at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. There, he reiterated false claims that we won this election and we won it by a landslide. He also willfully made statements that in context encouraged and foreseeably resulted in lawless action at the Capitol, such as, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Thus incited by President Trump, members of the crowd he had addressed in an attempt to, among other objectives, interfere with the joint session's solemn constitutional duty to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election, unlawfully breached and vandalized the Capitol, injured and killed law enforcement personnel, menaced members of Congress, the Vice President, and congressional personnel, and engaged in other violent, deadly, destructive, and seditious acts. President Trump's conduct on January 6, 2021 followed his prior efforts to subvert and obstruct the certification of the results of the 2020 presidential election. Those prior efforts included a phone call on January 2nd, 2021, during which President Trump urged the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, to, quote, find enough votes to overturn the Georgia presidential election results, and threatened Secretary Raffensperger if he failed to do so. In all this, President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States and its institutions of government. He threatened the integrity of the democratic system, interfered with the peaceful transition of power, and imperiled a co-equal branch of government. He thereby betrayed his trust as president to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Donald John Trump, by such conduct, has demonstrated that he will remain a threat to national security, democracy, and the Constitution if allowed to remain in office, and has acted in a manner grossly incompatible with self-governance and the rule of law. Donald John Trump thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Mr. President, that completes the exhibition of the article of impeachment against Donald John Trump, President of the United States. The managers request that the Senate take order for the trial. The managers now request leave to withdraw.
Thank you, Mr. Raskin. And the Senate will duly notify the House of Representatives when it is ready to proceed with the trial. Thank you.
It's a short process, but a necessary one as the wheels of the mechanism of the impeachment of a president go forward. In this case, the indictment, if you will, the article of impeachment brought from the House of Representatives to the Senate, where a trial will begin for not the president, but the ex-president of the United States, Donald Trump, for inciting the protesters who stormed the Capitol back on January 6th. Casey Hunt still with us here. So, Casey, again, this is the first step in the process, first step of the trial. Where does this go?
The first and foremost step, and another difference from this one, Lester, of course, you could see all the senators sitting there at their desks with masks. It's been rare to see that many senators on the floor during this pandemic. But the next step, of course, is going to be the trial itself, each side preparing a prosecution and a defense, laying out evidence, talking to witnesses if they want to. And then the big question is going to be, what are Republicans going to do? 17 of them would need to side with all 50 Democrats in the chamber to convict Donald Trump and bar him from office again. That is a high bar to meet, Lester.
A grave process, one we likely didn't expect to see in so quickly after the last one, almost exactly a year ago. We're going to rejoin regular programming now. For some of you, that means NBC Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Good evening.